Trump has won in a landslide and the markets are excited. We are seeing all-time highs in the NASDAQ, the S&P on their way up there, Bitcoin approaching 76K, going absolutely nuclear. The crypto market has lost its mind and has just going nuts right now. I can't even believe what I'm seeing. We're talking about that and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, like the stream today. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and do that too while you're at it. Nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research before making any financial decisions. Kev, it was not too long into the night that we found out the results of this election in a pretty, there's no doubt about it. And the markets, we saw the movement begin to happen when the first reports were coming in, and then crypto just went nuts, man. We had seen about 6 straight days of losses beginning last Wednesday. We saw that pullback begin where Bitcoin went from 72.7K down to 67K. And now we are on the verge of $76,000 per Bitcoin. It is a wild time in the markets. Even ETH is on the way back up. I want to talk about that in a little bit. We're seeing Solana approaching 190, Bitcoin dominance almost to 61. Alts are rallying. TradFi is going nuts. NASDAQ up almost 3% today. Dow Jones up 3.5% today. I mean, if you had money in the markets, you are printing at this moment in time. I am so confused. Like, I have no clue what to think as far as, having capital sidelined. I have some 1-year treasuries. I got a few months to make a decision. I got, some 1-year treasuries that mature in February. I'm hoping we get a little bit of a correction before that, so I have a better entry, but wild times, my man. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Before we start, everyone who's watching, thank you. Chris, thank you for being here. And yes, we also talked about this too. Seemed obvious, right? If Trump was going to win, Doge would fucking rally because Elon, like I said, Elon probably just happy that Trump won. Otherwise, he'd be, I don't know, he'd be on the stake at some point. But, given what happened last night, I thought that outright Trump probably would have won the election, right? I think a lot of people voted based off of what their lifestyle, how their life has changed in the past 4 years. And I'm talking economics, right? In terms of paying bills, in terms of not making nearly as much money as they once were. We got all those revisions in the BLS data that we're going to get so many more in the coming months. But there was just definitely a big disparity when it came to what we were being told from the left and then what people were actually living day to day. So there was a huge disparity there. I assumed that Trump would probably win the popular vote. He did. The only thing is I thought he might not have won the election when it came down to the Electoral College, right? It comes down to those main states. Anyone's game. It could have swung either way. But the important thing is the markets are rallying like crazy right now. And if she were to have won, I don't necessarily know if it would have been the same reaction. I think what happens in the coming weeks, if not months, of what we're heading towards in this market, I'm looking to the debt market, I'm looking to the VIX, I'm looking to patterns that we've seen in the past. They all point towards the same direction. So seeing this little rally right here, this euphoria, makes a lot of sense that people are still just really excited. Obviously, Bitcoin 76K, Doge flying like crazy. Don't forget, we got NVIDIA flying right now too. Meanwhile, super microcomputer dumping like crazy. It's a very strange time. We're going to dive into some of the information we got on both the reverse repos, bank term funding program, and even just historical VIX patterns too, because a lot of things are just pointing that this could be a temporary 2-week euphoric moment. And what happens in 2 weeks as well? We have OpEx, options expiration. I can't speak right now, but that's another thing that we have to keep in mind. Plus, we're seeing who's dumping. It's a wild time to be in this market. I guarantee you that this will be the most fun you'll have if you're not too over leveraged in this market right now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it wouldn't have been the same case if the outcome was different. We are seeing that it's the most pro crypto House and Senate that we've ever had. Basically,
Sure.
the Democratic Party has stated that they are giving up this fight against crypto. That crypto has more staying power and more sway than they thought it would. They got that one very wrong. So I think we're going to see a much more pro crypto stance. You have Cynthia Loomis out there talking about this Bitcoin strategic reserve, which that had been talked about back at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville months ago. I don't know if that means they're going to buy Bitcoin or if they're just going to hold what they've already confiscated from like Silk Road and all of that. I do hope that this means that they get Ross Ulbricht out of jail from that whole situation. He needs to be let go immediately. But it's overall it's a more pro crypto, government, which is a good thing for our financial situation, at least for mine. So I guess there is that. We in the stock market, we're seeing Bitcoin or Coinbase up like 30% on the day. Absolutely crazy. Tesla is going nuts, up 15%, just off of Elon's involvement in the Trump administration. So not the greatest time. If you were short going into this, you just got absolutely destroyed. There's just no way around it. Like if you were leverage trading and you were short going into the election, that was a miscalculation. So Godspeed there. But what do you want to talk about with reverse repo, with Asia? We do need to hit on some of those things before we look at, the euphoric crypto charts.
Yeah, let's just go to TradFi real quick because there's a lot of things out there that, again, are very interesting. We had this little dump right here prior to the election. A lot of people probably just getting out of their positions a little bit scared, so to speak. Let's see from the top to the bottom how much that we dropped. About 3%, right? And now we see this massive move to the upside. We're currently up from the bottom of that move about 4.08%. Massive move. We're probably going to go to 6,000 in the coming 2 weeks, leading to OpEx. But I did want to show something kind of interesting going back to the VIX. And it's where the VIX bottomed this morning because it was a major gap down, right? Look at this massive gap that we have here on the VIX. And I didn't change these lines one bit on the VIX. These triangle patterns that we're kind of watching the trend lines where it's finding resistance, where it's finding support. It went straight down there and it bounced right off of it. Why is that important? Well, it kind of did this once before. And I'm going to look at the S&P in a second, go back to it. But we look back to COVID right around that time. Massive triangle pattern, right? It kept on finding resistance, broke out of it, came down, and it back tested that trend line. Oops, shit. I said I just didn't move and I just did. All right, there we go. It back tested that that trend line. And then from there, at a low of about 13.64, we saw one of the most massive pumps in the VIX up to about 85 or so. Why is that important? Well, it waited till OpEx to finally reverse. And once it reversed, all those contracts were out of the clearing. I don't necessarily know how many people have calls or open calls right now. If they do, they're probably happy as shit. But let me tell you this. Ken Griffin of Citadel dumps like 80% of his NVIDIA holdings last week. Jeff Bezos gets to $13 billion selling off a ton of shares last week. Warren Buffett's in the highest cash position, continuing to add to that.
I think it's like, what, 330 billion?
325 billion. It might be 327 billion after last week. Don't correct me on that.
He and I have very similar cash holdings at this point.
Yeah, that's literally pocket change, that dude, at this point. But why this is important is if we look back to the S&P and why I measured those returns. We got to go back to COVID, actually, right around there.
We got 76K Bitcoin for a hot second there. It happened.
Nice. Get excited, guys, for the next 2 weeks. But looking at this right here, how much should we pull back from the height of this down here? 3.72%. We pulled back about 3%, right? And now we got to look from the bottom to where we push up. And this is right around the time that OpEx ended. 5.51%. We're currently sitting at 4.08%. I'm not saying that we can't go higher or lower. It could stay in that range. I just think that we're probably going to see euphoria for the next 2 weeks. I think the 20th is expiration. Somewhere around there is also OpEx. Maybe it's that Friday, so the 22nd. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm kind of looking at. And the reason I keep looking at that is there's a lot of liquidity that's being drained out of the system. Now, if we go to the reverse repos real quick, because I know this is something that no one really cares about, but I do, we're draining like crazy. If we look at this on the monthly real quick, the reverse repo on the monthly is down 57 billion. It's down 28.34%. That's just in this month of November. If we look back at October, it was down 56.77%, down 264 billion. The interesting thing is too, it bounced a little bit today. It's at 177, I believe. Why that's interesting is because there's less counterparties each time we get a reading on that, which means that there's less people using the facility. Now, the interesting one this Thursday, tomorrow night, is going to be the Bank Term Funding Program. Because if I'm looking at this right here, the next move is probably a big move. And by big move, I say anywhere between 10 to $40 billion that this thing gets drained. By the time we get to OpEx, this thing should be at or near zero. So why I think this is a problem also becomes that we're draining those two major facilities. And then we look at the bond market, and the bond market's going crazy right now. Look at the 10-year. 10-year's just absolutely said, fuck this, and it started going up. And this is off a Trump presidency. Now, if Kamala Harris would have won, I'm pretty sure that the bond market would have completely pulled down. People would have been buying bonds like crazy. They wouldn't have had faith in the equity market. I think everything right now is flipped. I think people thinking that Trump's good for the markets, completely flipped. I think Democrats are really good for companies and corporations to make a lot of money in the markets. Obviously, inflation is something that helps a lot of these stocks get to where they are. With Trump, I think it's completely opposite. I think the dollar is going to grow strong here if we do see some type of problems in the markets. And there's going to be a good chance that maybe people don't necessarily buy the debt. I know Asia is not buying our U.S. debt right now. And that's kind of the funny thing right here, too, with how much everything is rallying. If we look at NVIDIA, I know I'm taking most of the show up right now, but I just want to go through this because it's one single train of thought. NVIDIA right now that's NVD. I'm stupid. That's the one that shorts NVIDIA. NVIDIA, all-time highs, obviously massive gap here. They got earnings in 2 weeks, 14 days. 14 days from now. And why this is important is because they're going to have to find where to make up all the money for forward guidance if Supermicrocomputer ends up getting into a lot of trouble and they get removed from the NASDAQ. NVIDIA just got added to the Dow Jones. So now they're in the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ. If this thing gets imploded because they find out that vendor financing meant that there was no actual money flowing through NVIDIA itself, and all the money that's coming in is primarily just, equity, stock holdings and just what they liquidate for cash. I mean, you're talking about something that could be absolutely catastrophic for all the indexes, for tech, and you could start to see some major descent. But again, that's after OpEx, right? So it's going to be really interesting on that front. But NVIDIA starts to eat shit while the yen is getting really weak here against the US dollar. Are we not just fueling the fire for another yen carry trade just to be unwound in, I don't know, a month or two? There's a lot of things we have to keep in mind here. And again, people are euphoric. Be my guest. You're excited about Bitcoin going to 76K? Sure, it's awesome. I still don't see a world. I don't see a world where, whether it was Trump or Harris or whoever was going to end up being president, gets us out of this hole that we are in. And that's not me saying that. That's me looking at the debt markets and saying that's what they're pointing towards.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Dogecoin going on an absolute piss missile. ETH back over 2,700. Let's go to ETH. I want to talk about this. Maybe I'm crazy for still DCAing ETH and thinking that it had because we're looking at Bitcoin and it's blasted past all-time highs. ETH is still about 72, 73% below its all-time high, way below it. I'm just confused as to if this is the play right now and I'm on the right track, or if I've lost the thread here and ETH will never approach those all-time highs again. I'm just very confused at the
moment. Parallel channel. Nothing's changed. That's my opinion. I look at this and I'm like, it bounced right off the bottom of it. Maybe it goes to the top of it. Maybe it's a good play short term. I don't think any of these altcoin patterns really changed since last night. You just kind of hit the bottom of it and you're finding the last bit of rally that they got in them. But again, just looking at this every time we get a pattern like this, break down from it. This one is interesting because this one never broke down from it, but this is part of a larger structure to the B wave. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a scenario where we start to see this mega rush to the upside. Again, I think this is all fueled 100% by the ETF, Bitcoin ETF specifically, right? February 2024, speculation. ETH was going to get one, hit the height, came down, got the approval, did nothing, really did nothing. It bled out for a long period of time.
Long fart is what this chart looks like.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the most simple, easy, basic, boring charts in all of crypto because it's just so fucking plain as day ABC corrective pattern. I mean, you would have to go higher than 41.49 and higher than 49.04 for this thing to be invalidated. So what we're looking at there would be, you know, a 52% move in ETH and then potentially an 81% move in ETH to break this validation pattern. Otherwise, this thing still points to something lower than the A wave, which is around that $800 level or so, 887, I think. So that's just something to keep in mind. I mean, let's take a look at Bitcoin because Bitcoin obviously broke out of that pattern, and this was a, you know, just an expanding channel. It wasn't a megaphone pattern. I expected it to be, but it looked like there was just a little bit more juice to the upside. Not surprised there with, again, how much institutions are in it. You could even see where it bounced too, right? It came down, bounced right off that. That was probably the go signal to get in, and it just straight up. I mean, it's up what, $6,600 today, 9.51%. I'm having people that I haven't talked to in months just like saying, "Oh my goodness, should I buy Bitcoin? Should I buy all this other stuff?" And I'm like, I don't know. Do you have a job? Like, I'm sorry, that's just kind of the way I'm approaching it right now. But looking across the board too, you know, USDT dominance, it's down, it's eating shit. But Bitcoin dominance is like absolutely insane right now, right? This is actually quite scary because Bitcoin starts to tumble. Then, you know, the alts that are having a decent day today up, you know, between 5 and 10%. What happens if Bitcoin just absolutely shits on them? Do you think money's going to flow into Bitcoin, or are you going to see money flow into safer havens like US dollar? And again, I'm not, you think I'm, and a lot of people think I'm like, I love the US dollar. No, I just know that when push comes to shove and there's an absolute transfer of wealth, that tends to be the safe place where you're going to have the most options once everything crashes. That's the only reason I'm bullish on the dollar, right? It's whenever there's crisis. But when you're seeing these returns today, it's very hard to believe that that's ever going to happen. We look at total 3 right now. You know, we broke from this channel and then it goes right back into it. If I pull this line right up there, look at that. It's got rejected right off that trend line. Now you're waiting to see if it breaks above this. Could that happen? Absolutely. It totally can. We have what, 2 weeks or so before we start to see the, you know, people take profit on OpEx. But if it's any indication of what we've seen back here, this is just going to get rejected at some point. Looking at total 1, you know, this is a parallel channel. It's obviously a little bit higher. This could even be, you know, a wedge pattern, sending wedge. So we got to take a look at that. AVAX, like these things aren't telling me that alts are in a strong place. They're having a good bounce. Doesn't mean that they're in a good place relative to where Bitcoin is. Bitcoin's gone up. Alts have done shit for this entire year. BNB, sideways trading, doesn't matter. It's because Binance won't sell anything. Solana, having a good day. I will say that that's one that is continuing to trend towards that topper level, that top, you know, 210 level. Will it hit there? I don't know.
And we lost Kevin. All right. And he's back. Lost you.
Oh, okay. I lost you. That's why I was like, why isn't XRP opening up? It's on my end. There we go. All right, that's total. Where is it? Where's Link? Yeah, I mean, all these are still within their patterns. A lot of people are getting really excited here. Let's look at Doge. That's one that I can't argue for, and I don't think you can ever make a TA argument for Doge ever. Elon kicked ass, Trump kicked ass. Obviously, it's going to rally. It makes total sense. I'm sure there's going to be someone telling me this is a cup and handle pattern coming in at some time. I don't know if that's the case. I don't play these games with these, but if I'm looking at how everything's kind of shaping up, obviously all the volume came in right around the election, right around the ETFs.
Oh man, what a terrible day for Kevin's internet to go tits up
today. So I don't know,
buddy. I think your internet is problematic at the moment because you just froze on me again.
Shit,
and you're like real grainy right there.
Damn it! I can see you perfectly fine. It's my fault. Yeah, connection is unstable. My bad. Beautiful. So I'll keep off the charts. We can just talk big picture now.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm sitting here not sure what I want to be patient. I think I'm happy that I'm in the markets and I can enjoy this rally. I also still believe that when we zoom out on these things, like at some point a correction is needed. Now, the really interesting part is we get a Fed rate decision tomorrow.
Yeah.
Expectation 99% chance of a 25 basis point cut, but a 70% chance of another 25 in December. How is that impacted by the new administration? What happens with Powell, Gary Gensler? Bye bye. You're out of here. So it's going to be. I don't know what to make of it, and I don't have to make a decision for the most part until like February, as far as like what I want to do with my sideline capital, and I'm okay with that. Like maybe we get a rally over the next few weeks, like you've discussed. Maybe it's through the end of the year, but at some point, like the water finds its level. Like these things will come back to bite the market in the ass, or maybe not, and maybe we're just I don't know anything. I'm so confused right now. I'm just gonna sit here and look at the number go up and enjoy the ride, and we'll just see what happens.
It almost feels like punishment. Anyone who is excited right now when we find out that, oh, maybe the economy just wasn't in the healthiest place that it was for the past like 12 months, right? And then you start seeing mass unemployment. I'm sure that the media will have a fun day with that and Trump being in office. And again, that's why we talk about the debt markets and we see where the problems actually are arising from. But I honestly think that there's very little in the way now, right? The election's over. It was no contest. Like no one argued about it. A lot of people that didn't want Trump now have to deal with Trump coming in. It's like, are they going to buy this market up? Are they going to profit if everyone else loses and they win? These are some things you just kind of have to keep in mind. That's why I brought up the Ken Griffin dropping the NVIDIA, Supermicro Computer failing to file the 10K. Also, just like kind of a whatever earnings call. So a lot of things that you have to keep in mind and not get lost in the moment. It's so easy to get lost in the moment. It's like I see people being like romantic over Joe Biden now because he clearly wasn't a fan of Kamala Harris. Didn't show up to the rally last night or for her the HQ. But it's like, I don't know, guys. 36 years of this guy. I don't know if he did much good for you or other people, but what I'm saying is people get really locked in tunnel vision when you're in the moment. So seeing these rallies, seeing all this stuff, it's very easy to get sucked in. Just maybe that's what they want from you. Maybe you're born to be exit liquidity. I was sure as hell. We all been there.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up there for today. We'll be back on Friday. Talk through Powell's FOMC talk, the latest decision there, how the markets are responding, any other data that's coming in. It's going to be these next few weeks, man, are going to be nuts.
Understatement.
So hold on to your butts. All right. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe. I see we probably got some porn bots that are streaming as well for engagement. That's great. Appreciate you out there. Anytime I see our live viewers over like 3 or 4, I'm like, oh yeah, the bots are watching. Yeah, comment, whatever, share us on social, I guess. Yeah, appreciate everybody for watching. Enjoy the ride up, and we will talk to you on Friday.
Stay safe. Take care.